The day you're gonna stop treating karting as a hobby and instead gonna treat it as a profession is the day you're gonna start to make massive progress and start to get results. Because believe me, you can be as fast as you want, but if you are being disciplined, if you aren't treating it as if it was already your job, as if it was already your profession, even though for sure you are probably aiming for Formula cars, GTs, IndyCar, NASCAR, like whatever you're aiming for. If you're not treating karting right now as a profession, so taking diligently, being disciplined, and doing all the steps required from training hard in the gym or cycling, running, just in terms of physical training, as well as perhaps mental training. Working with some mental coaches or like with Formula Medicine, this kind of providers that help you also become strong in the head, etc. So if you're not working a lot on your physical / mental training, and also at the track you're not putting the effort and trying to looking at your data, like looking at your videos every session, trying to see what you could do better, what you're doing bad or not, and trying to seek some help and coaching from data guy, from mechanics, etc. If you're not doing all of that work required both at home, so as I said, in the gym, training, etc., and at the track, not only by just driving as well as you possibly can, but also all the work outside. When you're in the tent, you're in the truck, and you're trying to figure out ways to get faster, discussing setups with your mechanic, helping him doing some setup work and trying to understand actually the mechanics of how the car behaves. So all these sorts of activities combined are going to make you a much better driver. So, and they're gonna stop you from being a hobby driver, just treat it as a hobby. Even if you may get a decent results already, but there's a big distinction between drivers that really want to make it and really like have the passion and are putting the commitment to make it one day become their profession. As I said, not necessarily in karting, but in other categories, from Formula cars, etc. There's a big distinction between these two drivers. Driver A that is just treating as a hobby, and as the session ends, it just goes playing around with his teammates or any other friends. And driver B, who's just so disciplined both at home and at the track, and tries to really double down and getting all the maximum results. I'm pretty keen on this, and I believe that that's the foundation. You can have the talent that you want, the maximum talent, but if you don't have that foundation of having that sort of desire, that drive, the inner drive that is mixed with even, I would say, intelligence and understanding, okay, if I want to become the best, if I want to one day get to Formula One, I need to treat this seriously. I need to treat this as a job, as a profession, not just as something fun I'm doing in the weekends. That it's like a holiday trip with my parents. We're just driving to the tracks, or just like flying to the tracks, and they're just like have a good time. Then we go back home, we go to school, and they work, and etc. Rinse and repeat. Now, if you treat it like this, it's never gonna be your job. It's already so hard because there's such a little amount of available seats. One of the most, if not the most competitive sports in the world, with only 20 drivers competing in Formula One out of the 8 billions we are in the whole world, and a bunch of drivers racing in Formula E or IndyCar, Le Mans, and so there's not too many seats available for professional drivers, and it's already complicated. And if on top of that you're not putting the full work required to be one day hopefully be among those few that can make racing their living, if you're not putting that kind of effort, there's no chance. It's not like it's gonna get out of luck. And even if by luck you're gonna get some results here and there, believe me, you're not gonna see the lasting effect of a proper disciplined driver that becomes successful, starts to get results. People start to talk about him. Coaches or even scouts have a look at him and they're like, okay, this guy is going to go far in his career. So I think this is the main thing I wanted to show in this video, which is you cannot expect to become a professional driver if you treat karting right now as a hobby. Like, I understand you may be 8 or 9, 10 years old, you are maybe, or 12, 13, 14, you may consider yourself still very young and be like, oh, I'm still young, how can I be so into it? How do I even know if that'll be my profession? Well, to answer the second question, you'll be like, this has to be clear in your head whether you want to do this or not. If you're just here to compete and have a good fun have a good time, just like, you probably won't just go through the Formula ranks, which are very, very fierce, very, very competitive. So, I mean, there's two distinctions. You may be watching this video and you may be completely fine with being, Alessio, I'm just here to have a good time. I'm here to have some fun, hopefully win some races, and that's it. I want to do something totally different with my life. I respect that. There's a bunch of drivers like that. I'm not saying the majority, but I think there's a great part of drivers that are like that, and it's good that everybody chooses their destiny. And nobody should be enforced to be a driver. It has to really come like an inner desire, like as like a something that you need to feel, like a void inside your body. Like I need to feel like that was what drove me. I was like, I need to win. I want to win, and I want to be the best, and I want to be a Formula One driver. That was my drive. Not everyone will have that drive. And I think that is the minimum, the bare minimum, if you want to get there. For sure, drivers like Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Norris, Russell, and now, drivers I even raced against, and I think they had the same drive, or probably more. I don't know. I had a lot, but I can't be in their head, and I can't know how much they wanted more than me or less than me. But like for sure, they had this prerequisite that was super important, and so beyond getting good results and getting good equipment package in any category you're in, being karting or Formula cars, no matter that, I think that real foundation that you need, as I said, is the drive, is the decision you make to yourself to become the number one, and ideally to become a Formula One driver. So to do that, you have to treat this as a profession, honestly, from karting. And as I said, it's like football. It's like other sports. In football, you may want to become a Premier League player, let's say, playing for Manchester United or Liverpool or Manchester City, Chelsea, whichever other team. And that may be your ambition. And if you have that ambition, for sure, you will get further than somebody who doesn't have that ambition. If you don't have that ambition, you're like just playing for fun, mate, I'm sure you're not gonna put in the time after your training to do all the requirements, like stretching. You may have to do like some resting, specifically kind of like ice baths to recover, or you may have to do like some strategy sessions. You may have to do some like extra training sessions by yourself, trying to improve your skill, etc. So if you don't have that drive, for sure it's already so hard. There's only 20 teams. Is that 20 teams per? I mean, for sure, football is way more doable. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's way more doable to become a professional football player than a Formula One driver, because obviously there's like a bunch of teams through the world, and each of team is about 25, 30, I don't know exactly, but like about 30 players per team that are on the contract. And if you consider the amount of teams there's like in every country, like in Italy, for example, there's like the Serie A, which is the major league, then there's Serie B, which is the like a second league, and it's like it's like 20 teams in the major league, 20 teams, and already they're getting salaries, and they're earning good money also in the secondary league, for example. Of course, not like the major league, or as if you're playing for, say, Juventus or Inter Milan, or this kind of teams, etc. But like if you think about it, in football, there's way more opportunity, even though there's a lot of competition. I think it's quite even, because there's so many more players playing football, because the barriers to entry is so less. If you think about it, like it's so much less expensive becoming a football player. You have to buy your shoes, you have to go attend the trainings, etc. But like in terms of monetary costs related to football, it's way less compared to racing. Racing seasons are costing more and more every year, and Formula car season, Formula 3, Formula 2, it's crazy. Like I heard Formula 2 is going through the roof right now. So it's like, I'm not here to I'm not here to disappoint you. I'm not here to be like, oh yeah, it's so hard. I'm just giving you the honest reality how it is. Like even when I was racing, I knew it was going to be hard, and it was good that I knew it, you know, because if they would have told me, no, Alessio, it's gonna be easy, you know, it's gonna be, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. No, it was good that they told me, listen, mate, it's gonna be expensive, it's gonna be hard. So your performance is needed. You need the results so that you can ideally find then like some sponsors or get good deals with the teams, the Formula teams, so you can get, you know, easier rates, and that was pretty much the thing. So I'm here to just give you what's coming up ahead. And if you don't treat this as a profession, and I'm not saying you have to be like, oh, you know, I'm all in, and there's nothing else I'm gonna do out of my life besides racing. I mean, yeah, you may want to have that, but I'm not saying you should have this kind of like this kind of mentality. You know, school is still as important. Like, you know, I would not suggest or advise anyone to just like skip school just for racing. You know, maybe at some point you will have to after a given time and results, and you're like, okay, maybe this is the time. But like, I wouldn't be like at 13 years old, you know, school is not for me, I'll be all in with racing, because, you know, there's other things in life, and you may still be able to match school with racing. As if you look at Kimi Antonelli, is started his season in Melbourne, the first race he did, and he was 18, he was 18, he's still 18. I don't know when you want to watch this video, but in 2025 August, I think he's still 18 years old, and he had I think he had the high school exam. In Italian we call maturità, at the end of the 5th year of high school, because we have 5 years in Italy. In like in the US, probably it's like 4, isn't it? But yeah, so he's like, he was still studying high school full time, and he was you know, racing for Mercedes in Formula 1, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, I would think like 90% of the drivers would have stopped going to school. Like I was racing against some of the drivers. For example, I was racing against Charles, I was racing against Norris. Like when I was teammate with Charles in Formula 3, I remember I was still going to school. It was 2015, so I was 16 turning 17, and I was still going to high school. I still had 3 years left of high school, and I remember I think he was not going to school anymore. I can't remember exactly, but for sure he was not going to physical school. If anything, he was doing something online, but I can't remember. But anyway, okay, he made to F1. He's a Ferrari driver. I'm not. I didn't get anywhere close, but yeah, just the point being, there's different drivers. You know, some drivers made to F1 by still going to school. Some drivers, you know, got to F1 by stopping school early on. I'm not here to judge, but I'm just saying that, yeah, the point being is that I didn't want to digress in this video, but it's quite common for me to do it normally. But yeah, the whole point is like, yes, you want to have the mentality, okay, I want to put a maximum effort. But you should still, as I said, like, especially if you're 10, 11, 12, 13, you should still have the open mindset of, okay, you know, I still have to do good at school, you know? Because at the end of the day, you can still do both, you know? Because when you are at the track, you have to focus on the track. When you're at school, you have to focus at school. And, you know, when you are after school, you have to do your basic homeworks, as far as I know, as far as I did. And then do your training, you know, just be cycling, running, swimming, gym, whatever it is. You're gonna do your training, and that's gonna be great for your preparation for your races. And then besides that, you will go do your testing days, etc. So I'm pretty sure you can still balance nicely the two things, school and racing. But as I said, this was not the point of the video. The point of the video is that you have to treat racing, karting in particular, because this channel is mostly about karting. You know, I could go on expanding to different topics like racing, formula cars, etc. But I'm not. I want to be the go-to place for getting advice for karting, and yeah, so I think you should just stop. Like, you're not saying you should. I'm saying if you want to ideally one day become a racing winner, compete at really high international levels, WSK, CIK, Champions of the Future, RGMMC, whatever. If you want to compete at the maximum level, ideally go for wins, go for championships, and then move up the ranks, you know, go up to Formula cars, and ideally have a shot at Formula 1. To do that, karting cannot be a hobby. It can't be a hobby anymore. It has to be treated as a profession. You cannot be like, you know, I'll treat karting as a hobby, and then when I go to Formula cars, I'll treat it as a profession. You can't do this. It's not gonna work. because if you treat this as a hobby, nobody is going to give you the chance unless you are from a very, 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 very wealthy family. Then it's going to be like, it's not a problem. It's like if you're like the budget required for racing, it's like pocket change. If you are from that kind of families, then well, I mean, you can still buy. How can I say? Yeah, I can't say you can. I can't say you can buy your way to Formula One, but it's kind of like, because some drivers did that. But yeah, if you are obviously within 99% of the people that are karting, I'm not saying 99% of the population, but like 99% of the drivers that are in karting, which have limited resources, with limited budgets, it's hard to find sponsors and everything. If you're among that 99% of drivers and you're not that 1% guy that can be like treat it as a hobby and you still get Formula One, I mean, if you're not that kind of 1%, but you're in the 99%, which I believe most of the drivers are, well, then you have to put serious effort, and as I said, not only at the track but also out of the track, doing a lot of like training and preparing yourself fully, so that when you go to the track, you're more physically ready, and when you're at the track, you're gonna still do a lot of work, data, video, debriefs with your mechanic, with your data guy, so that you're gonna be more prepared. You're gonna learn more. You're gonna be more you're just gonna be ready for all this of the different situation. Your decision making will be even better, not only in terms of setups to get your mechanic, but also in terms of decision making on track, by watching more races videos on YouTube, or even by just watching races at the track, by watching races of other categories, and that's normally a really good thing. I used to do a lot of time this kind of thing, and I still do a lot, and I still do a lot of like video analysis by watching my races or like other drivers' races, and I just like to go and have maybe I put myself on the treadmill, and I just put my iPad over there, and I just watch race videos of the track that I want to drive next, and I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna watch a couple of these videos. It's gonna be like 14 minutes. I'm gonna run, and I'm gonna forget about running. I'm just gonna be like focusing as if I was driving, like as if I was on the track with them. I think this is a nice exercise to do, and I highly encourage all of you. But yeah, remember, you don't want to treat karting as a hobby. You want to treat it as a profession. The minute you treat it as a profession, believe me, is the minute you will start to get results. Because if you I know as a team manager of BabyRace together with my brother, like I notice, especially because I work mostly on the performance side, so I do a lot of data analysis, coaching, watching videos with the drivers, not only in terms of setups, but also a lot with the drivers. That's also what I really like to do. I try to transmit all of my experience, let's say even a bit of wisdom, and try to get them to be faster, up to pace, and become faster drivers. But sometimes I see drivers, I'm like, mate, do you really want to be here, or you would rather be home? So sometimes I see drivers, I'm like, mate, come on, you need to put a bit more effort in there, like in at home. You need to arrive at the track, you need to be healthy, you need to arrive at the track, you need to be fit, you need to arrive at the track, and you have to be ready to go. You have to be trained, and you don't have to be like tired already after the first session. That means you did not the work up front, and if you didn't do the work up front when you were home, well, it means you don't care enough. If you don't care enough, why you're here? So that's a bit of like the reasoning I do. Or like sometimes they have other things, like they're not putting the work. They never, like, I'm not saying all of them, I'm saying that a small minority. I'm just saying a few drivers have this. No, well, like we have some really wonderful drivers, really wonderful kids at BabyRace. I'm just saying a small minority sometimes have this, and they're like, yeah, they may like it, they may enjoy it, but they don't go like putting all the efforts in, and like, and when I see that they're not doing data, they're not coming to do the video, and like I almost have to go and look for them, and like, hey mate, you haven't been doing any data in the last couple of days, what's going on? And they're like, I was playing, I was like, yeah, well, if you're playing and stuff, then you're not, you don't really care about the results, right? If you don't want to do data, if you don't want to do video, it means like you are not putting the effort. If you're not putting the effort, well, you don't want to win. So if you're not trying to win, then just let us know, you know, just and so I mean, we're still gonna do the maximum effort as a team, you know. But the point being is just like, yeah, just let us know. So we we know that if the result doesn't come, you're not gonna be upset. We're not gonna be upset. Nobody's gonna be upset. But yeah, I don't really like working with those kind of drivers, to be honest. Like I just say I still have to work with some of those because they are part of the team, but I prefer to prefer to work with drivers that are really motivated, they're really disciplined, they're really driven, passionate, and when I see those drivers, I'm super excited, and it yeah. So so yeah, I mean it's just a bit of rambling and a bit of mix of thoughts in this video, but yeah, just remember, like I gave you some experiences, I gave you some of my day-to-day anecdotes and something that I did, something that I still do to this day. So the reason is just to help you get a upper edge, like upper end. What did I say? Upper edge. Yeah, to get an upper end on the competition and ideally transform you into the best version of yourself, the best driver. And that's the whole goal with this channel, and what I'm doing here is just to help you become the best version of yourself. And if you really want it, to move up the ladder. And as I said, results are needed, but if you put in a lot of effort, for sure the results are gonna come. I mean, not for sure, but there's a high probability that the results are gonna come. You know, there's a lot of drivers, competition is high, so to get to the top, as a bare minimum, is required your full commitment. And I hope you will do it after watching this video. I mean, I hope you're already doing it, by the way. And I hope that this is just like a reminder for you. But yeah, for those ones who have not yet made the click, I urge you to analyze yourself and try to look inward. Even if you're young, 10, 11, 12, I mean, I think you still already have the reasoning to process this information and be like, okay, what do I want to be? I want to be just having fun and try it as a hobby, or do I want to put in maximum effort and having a proper shot and ideally become a professional racing driver? You know, this is what you have to think, and based on that, you take your own decision. You take the following actions. All right. I hope you like the video. Wherever. I hope you. I mean, to be honest, one thing I prefer is that more than liking the video, I prefer that this brings you some thinking, some thinking and reasoning, and trying to bring up some new ideas perhaps. And just let me know in the comments what you think. You know, I may have an opinion, other people may have different opinions, and I'll be happy to continue the conversation in the comments. I'll see you.